Imagine a modern megacity operating entirely on unfiltered hierarchy, a society completely stripped of the concept we call balance. In this society, there are no yoga studios. The idea of reaching a flow state or practicing minimalism simply does not exist. Nature isn't something you harmonize with. It is strictly an industrial resource consumed to keep the grid moving. We assume the desire for inner peace is an inherent human trait. The historical record suggests otherwise. The concept of balance is a fragile anomaly, hanging by a thread on a single afternoon thousands of years ago. Around the 5th century BCE, China was tearing itself apart. The Warring States period was a relentless cycle of political intrigue and mass bloodshed. An archivist named Lao Tzu had seen enough. Disgusted by the violence, he climbed onto a water buffalo and rode west toward the mountains, intending to leave human civilization behind. At the Hangu Pass, a border guard named Yin Shi stopped him. He issued an ultimatum. Lao Tzu was not allowed to cross the border until he recorded his life's wisdom. These carved bamboo slips are the physical evidence of his surrender. Lao Tzu believed that the person who knows does not speak. Yet, faced with administrative blackmail, he caved and carved 5,000 characters into bamboo. But consider the alternative. Lao Tzu applies his own philosophy of non-action. Instead of writing, he uses the guard's own fears against him, warns that forced words will stagnate the post, and simply vanishes into the Tibetan mountains in silence. The foundational intellectual framework of our world, the very idea of a way, survives only because an enlightened sage failed to uphold his own principles against a low-level bureaucrat. Without the Tao Te Ching, ancient China is left with an intellectual vacuum. There is no philosophical counterweight to the power of the state. This diagram shows the resulting power dynamic. With Taoism missing, the system crashes down heavily on the side of legalism, a philosophy built on the premise that humans are naturally evil and require brute force to keep them in line. Without Taoist alchemists searching for spiritual immortality, the state's scientific inquiry narrows. Discovery shifts away from medicine and entirely toward the logistics of war and mass control. By the 15th century, the state's expansionist machine has no internal check. Without the Taoist philosophy of humility to discourage overextension, Admiral Zheng He's fleets do not return to port. They continue across the Pacific, colonizing the Americas by 1420. When the philosophical option of non-action is removed, human civilization defaults to relentless, unchecked expansion. This is the architectural reality of 2026 in that timeline. Cities are designed to accelerate the flow of resources. You won't find a single park or human-centric space because organic life is treated as a barrier to efficiency. The internet operates as a digital nervous system for real-time punishment. Algorithms don't suggest entertainment. They calculate constant, unblinking obedience scores. Climate change is treated as an engineering challenge, not an ecological crisis. Burnout is prosecuted as a crime against state productivity. This totalitarian structure thrives because the specific intellectual counterweight, the concept of a spirit that exists independent of the state, never gained a foothold in the world's most dominant culture. Without Lao Tzu's radical defense of the internal self, personal privacy remains an uninvented concept. Returning to our actual timeline, we can see that Lao Tzu's decision to write his book did prevent that dystopian reality from taking hold. But codifying the Tao carried a hidden cost. By turning a formless path into a digestible text, Lao Tzu handed despotic regimes an incredibly effective tool for survival. Tyrannical systems survive by offering citizens a spiritual escape. When a population finds peace within their own minds, they are less likely to notice as metallic chains methodically wrap around their physical bodies. A philosophy designed to liberate the human mind ended up functioning as a pressure valve to sustain oppressive governments for centuries. The ultimate leverage of world-altering knowledge is not in its distribution, but in the strict refusal to share it. The instant Lao Tzu trapped the infinite nature of his path into human vocabulary, he compressed a formless energy into a rigid mathematical cage. He made the infinite manageable. True freedom isn't found by following the wisdom written down in the Tao Te Ching. It exists in the untethered, silent path Lao Tzu originally intended to take before he ever picked up the brush.